Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. And for today's content, I have a question to start off. When a gun controller falls in the city of Chicago, does it make a sound? Because Lori Lightfoot is out, and not just out in an embarrassing way, and that is what we're going to talk about. Everything will be linked in the description box below, and I cannot wait to hear from you guys on this one. Now, if you are new or you're a returning viewer, please consider hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and making sure that notification bell is on. We need as many of you as possible to get into the fold to help pass the blessing of the Second Amendment along to the next generation, and thank you for your consideration. But my brothers and sisters, the big breaking news this morning is Lori Lightfoot, liberal, progressive, gun-controlling mayor of Chicago, is out. And not just out in an embarrassing way. Enough of the setup, let's get into this, because anytime a gun controller loses, I've got to make a video. Check it out. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot will lose re-election bid, CNN projects, as crime concerns grow. Weird. You mean the progressive approach of just letting criminals do whatever they want with no consequences actually has a negative outcome for a city? Weird. Also, gun controller in chief right here. This is someone who has an outright assault against the Second Amendment in that city, not to mention the abuses of the state of Illinois by itself, but Chicago is particularly bad. Irony among ironies, all this crime and violence is occurring in a gun-free zone, which should be, according to their theory, impossible. Anyway, let's keep going, because that's kind of an old point. Let's look at the new stuff. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot lost her bid for a second term Tuesday, failing to make the top two runoff in the latest demonstration of growing concerns about crime in one of the nation's largest cities. There were 9 candidates. She didn't even make the top 2 for a runoff. You're talking about a sitting mayor not making the top 2 even for a runoff. It's one thing if she loses. If she doesn't even make the top 2, what does that say about the population of Chicago? They were either so full of her, or they may be looking at something and going, maybe this idea doesn't work. Let's keep going. I got some more stuff for you. Paul Vallis, a longtime public school chief who ran on a tough on crime message, and Brandon Johnson, a Cook County commissioner backed by progressives and the Chicago Teachers Union. So you're talking about a tough on crime approach or the sitting progressive power system. That's what you're dealing with there. Will advance to the April runoff, CNN projects. This part is crazy. Tuesday's municipal election marked the first time in more than 30 years that Chicago has ditched its mayor. Lightfoot could not overcome years of fights with the police and teachers unions, a spike in violent crime during administration, awkward, and Chicago's slow recovery from the coup situation. Lightfoot conceded Tuesday evening, telling supporters that she is now rooting and praying for the next mayor of Chicago. You lost so bad, your performance was so pathetic that you didn't make the top 2 as a sitting mayor. Now, there are tie-ins here, and the big underlying thing is even in a gun control state and city, you still had unprecedented levels of violence and crime. That's weird because it shouldn't exist. Again, I'm hitting that point. But let me show you where this is going, because this is the important part right here. Vallis, this is the more conservative of the two, built his campaign around a pro-police, tough-on-crime message, one he highlighted in celebratory remarks after Lightfoot had called Vallis and Johnson to concede. Quote, "We will have a safe Chicago. We will make Chicago the safest city in America," Vallis said. Well, I mean, let's not get crazy. Now, I would be completely remiss if I didn't tell you that this reminded me very much of Mayor Adams in New York when he was running on a very pro-police and anti-crime approach, and he turned out to be gun controller in chief and mayor in New York. I would be remiss not to say that. But this speaks to the population that they're not blindly following progressive mayor Lori Lightfoot because she was just all the gift to everything. Turns out they might actually have the ability to observe what's going on. Anyway, let's keep going. Measure my words on that one. Let's keep going. The big question over the next 5 weeks is whether Vallis' more conservative message will attract enough support to win a city where nearly 83% of votes in the 2020 presidential race went to the Democratic ticket. Now, I'm going to say it right now. I'm not saying that both of these candidates, there's one conservative and there's one progressive. You're talking about heavy progressive and then Democrat. I mean, you're not talking about a conservative. But the message and the principle of a pro-police and tough-on-crime approach is resonating in cities like Chicago and in New York. If you extrapolate that out to the smaller swing states, you can start to see a trend, which is important for gun rights, and that's why we're covering this. And here's the last piece. This is how CNN wrote the political obituary of Lori Lightfoot. Lightfoot, the first black woman and first out gay person to serve as mayor in the city, often pilloried by conservatives in national debates over violence and gun control, guilty, rose to prominence as a pugnacious reformer, promising a break from the corruption and clubby governance that had long marked Chicago politics. And how did that work out? She didn't even get in the top 2 out of 9 as a sitting mayor running on a far-left progressive approach, ostracizing everyone around her, going after her gun rights of her citizenry, and completely infringing upon their rights therein. And now they're out the door. That's what I've got for you guys. Everything will be linked in the description box below, and I cannot wait to hear what you guys think on this one. See you later.